Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tech News. Today we've got a bunch of interesting stories put together just for you. We've got an interesting episode with the most stubborn criminals, the most inventive police officers, Apple in virtual reality, commercial vertical takeoff and landing jets. We've got it all. So without further ado, let's get in. Actually, just before we get into it, I'm going to take a moment like every other YouTuber and ask you to hit that like and subscribe button. I know everybody asks for it, but it does help us with the algorithm. So if you would consider it, that would be awesome. Now, let's get into it. In consumer tech, today we've got the rumor that Apple is jumping into virtual reality headsets. That's right, they're rumored to be making their own virtual reality headset with 8K displays, one 8K display in each eye, and it's supposed to cost around $3,000. Now the first part I'm not sure about because 8K, 4K, 1080p is not usually how Apple works. Apple works more on the Retina display system, which is basically they put a display in front of your eye. If your eye can perceive the difference between the pixels, then they say that's not enough and they increase the pixel density to the point where you can't differentiate between pixels. They call that a Retina display and then they call it a day. They don't go by numbers such as 4K and 8K and so on. So I don't know how much importance we should give to this rumor. The second part of the rumor, however, is that it's priced at, or it will be priced at $3,000. That does sound more like Apple. So, adding fuel to the fire is the fact that their chief of hardware, Dan Riccio, just stepped down to work on a specific project. The details and the name of the project are not disclosed by Apple, so he could in fact be stepping down to work on this specifically or on their autonomous driving project, which they've been working on for a while reportedly. We don't know for sure, but we'll have to wait and see. So far, the company's been concentrating on augmented reality because they say that is the more transformative technology for society in the near future. But it's very possible that they're working on virtual reality as well. On the topic of Apple's engineers, one of Apple's ex-sound engineer, the guy who worked on their iPods and AirPod Pros and so on, has started his own company and it's called VZR. Well, it's American, so it's probably called VZR. But the point is, they're going to be bringing out headphones that are high fidelity, reasonable cost, and have an emphasis on directional audio. And this is very important to gamers. For those of you who don't know, video gamers, people who play video games, either professionally or casually, they depend on directional audio to understand what's happening in the environment around them, apart from just looking at their monitors. So if they hear gunshots from there or footsteps from there, they know what's happening in the environment and they're better prepared to cope with it. These headphones will be aimed somewhat at them, but also at high fidelity music, and they're supposed to come in at a lowly price of $350. See, that's how you know he worked for Apple, because apparently that is reasonable. Anyway, we're yet to see what the product is going to be like, but pre-orders have already started. In other consumer tech news, Samsung has announced that it will be throwing its name in the ring for rollable displays and will be adding to its line of flexible displays this year. So, not only has LG promised to come out with rollable displays, as we saw in CES a few episodes back, Samsung's throwing its hat in the ring as well, and TCL, another mobile phone manufacturer, is also reportedly bringing an offering to the market. So it is conceivable that in the next few years, you and I might well have a flexible or rollable display in our pockets, which I think is pretty cool. In Tech Social, where all the fun is today, officials in Germany have seized a wallet full of bitcoins worth about $60 million. The owner of the wallet has already been serving time for the past 2 years because he was caught for fraud. See, what he did was he installed malicious software in other people's computers, and the software used their computing power to mine bitcoin and transfer it to his wallet. However, the last 2 years, officials have been asking him for the passkey of the wallet and he has simply refused. I assume he said something like, "You'll have to pry this from my cold, dead hands." Yeah. Officials have managed to get their hands on a few of the bitcoins that were unsecured, but the rest of them remain in the wallet, firmly secure, possibly for life. At this point, the officials are even saying that he may have just forgotten the password, but we'd like to believe that he's holding on to it as leverage, because that just makes for a cooler movie. We want Frankfurt Redemption 2. That's the movie we want, right? Right, everyone? Maybe not. Moving on. When the officials are asked how they would use their money should they get their hands on said Bitcoin, they said, the money isn't stolen from anyone, so there's no need to return it. They would just sell the bitcoins on the market and put the money in the treasury, thus proving once again how your local government can be utterly unimaginative and boring. What's not boring, however, is United Airlines pouring $1 billion into tech startup Archer. Archer is a company that works on VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, a feat that has been achieved by a few aircraft in the past, such as the F-35 and the Harrier jump jet, not to mention every helicopter and hot air balloon ever. Archer says that it envisions a future where urban transportation will be transformed with VTOL tech, where people will be able to drive up to the nearest VTOL station, take a little personalized aircraft, and travel across the city, thus eliminating the need for use of roads and not getting stuck in traffic ever again. However, these claims are not new. Uber has also made such claims and abandoned such attempts. The problem, besides the tech involved, is also noise regulations and also risk management and air traffic control. Archer says that in the future they aim to eliminate some of these issues by completely computerizing both the operating of the aircraft as well as air traffic control services, but risk management is still an issue. One would assume their meeting went something like this. So what do we do if something fails, like if a propeller fails or something? Oh, that's not a problem. We've got multiple propellers. If one fails, the others are enough to keep it airborne, and therefore there's no single point in failure. That's how awesome our aircraft are going to be. Oh, cool. That's actually pretty good. But things happen to even the safest of airliners. What if something happens and it just crashes and takes out a whole city block, and then there's people murdered and death and bones and flesh, and what happens then? I want to know. I mean, we better get ahead of that sort of thing, Oh, way ahead of you, man. It's very simple. If that sort of thing happens, we just call Michael Bay, we get a movie made of it, we make a ton of money, we cover our losses. Easy. See, we've thought of everything. Yeah, no, that's actually genius. Yeah, let's do it. This is a good idea. I assume that's how the meeting went, but whatever. Anyway, Archer has also secured a partnership with a company called Stellantis, which is a joint venture between Fiat and Peugeot, and Stellantis will be providing them with carbon fiber bodies for their aircraft. So it does seem like there is some effort in this direction, and we'll just have to keep an eye on that sector and see if we'll be flying around our cities anytime soon. In other tech news, police officers in Los Angeles have been reported to have been playing Beatles music while they're being recorded by Instagrammers or YouTubers. And the reason is actually genius. The music is copyrighted. YouTube and Instagram don't allow you to play copyrighted music unless you especially have the rights to do so. Therefore, if you try and record them and try and upload it, the video will not be made available by YouTube or Instagram. Therefore, the police officers effectively muted your whole video or completely shut it down. I don't know whether to be irritated or impressed, but honestly, I'm just impressed. This is actually pretty cool. Sure enough, when someone tried to make a video while the police officer was doing this, he tried to upload the video on YouTube and other news agencies, and it was reported to him that the footage was effectively unusable because of the use of copyrighted music. So yeah, hats off for inventiveness. Whether that's good or bad, I'll leave it up to you. Tell me what you think in the comments down below. One more thing. For all you gamers out there, it looks like the world is getting even better. South Korean company CGV, I don't know why I said it like that, it's not a French company, it's CGV, it's a theater chain in South Korea that's been suffering losses because their theaters are going empty or at 50% capacity. And movies apparently are not being released at the rate they used to be, at least not in cinemas. So this company has decided to lease out its screens to gamers to use for the full cinematic experience with surround sound and everything. Apparently, they're not the first ones to do so. Another company in US, Malco Theaters, has also been doing the same thing since November. Because their theaters lie empty, they have been reportedly leasing their theaters out to gamers at a rate of about $100 for 2 hours or $150 for 3 hours, we're given to understand, which is actually pretty cheap. Imagine $50 an hour to have an entire theater room to yourself and just for your friends and family, and you get to play your favorite games with full surround on that huge screen. It's amazing. Honestly, not a bad idea at all. Honestly, this whole pandemic has been fantastic for gamers. I don't want to be I should probably not say that. I won't say that. I'll put it in there. I'll leave it in there. Anyway, if you remember in the last episode, we talked about Apple making some features available in iOS 14 that would make it harder for third-party apps to data track its users across other apps. Well, Google didn't say much, but Facebook was up in arms about it. Well, turns out Google is also doing something similar. They just think that self-regulation is better than government regulation, so they're just doing something to get ahead of the problem. But since Google also benefits massively from AdSense, we presume that Google will not follow the same approach and will follow more of an opt-out approach. That is to say, in Apple, you'll get a drop-down that will ask you whether you want to have your data tracked or not. Basically, you're opting in or out. Reportedly, Google will do the opposite in that it will automatically opt you in, but it will give you the option to opt out at any time. And once you opt out, the apps should be following the same guidelines as those on the Apple iOS store. This is a step in the right direction and definitely will make it harder for targeted ads to get to you. and hopefully a little bit more privacy. That's all we have from the tech news today. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully that was informative and fun. We'll see you again in the next tech news. Stay happy, stay peaceful, and stay colorful. Peace.